This video is time indexed. Hi, my name is Jeffrey Rainey. I am a blind drummer, and today I'll be reviewing the Yamaha FGDP-30 finger drum pad machine from Yamaha. This will be a two-part review. Part 1 will be an overview of the unit, so what comes out of the box, what the unit looks like, and going through the stock kits that come default with it. What you just heard there in the intro was a modified vintage 70s kit. So some of the sounds were the same as the kit as it appears by default, but some of them were changed. Some of the samples were changed, some of the tuning, some of the pannings, and we'll get to that in part 2. Now part 2 will be a deep dive into all of the menus and how to customize kits and what's available. This review is geared to both blind and sighted musicians and viewers alike, but I do apologize in that there are no visuals accompanying this video. So if you want some more video content, let me know in the comments below, and I will do my best to oblige. Part 3, if there is a part 3, will be your feedback. Any questions you might have, any comments, and yeah, we'll make that whole episode if you guys have anything to say about this. This is also, too, not a definite review. I've only had this machine for a couple of weeks now. I got it as a birthday present, and I have my first gig with it next weekend. So I've only had a few go-arounds on it, and I don't know everything there is to know, but it is quite a remarkable tool and provides a lot of value to myself. And I figured, well, if it provides a lot of value to me, then I can't be the only drummer out there who would benefit from something like this, and that's why I decided to do this, my first ever YouTube review. So, first impressions. When I came across this drum machine online, I forget how, if it was a Sweetwater search result or if it was just Googling things, I thought, what a great idea. It's so simple in its design, but that's what makes it so effective. We haven't really seen this unit since the 80s and early 90s, and when I got it out of the box, it is very nostalgic looking. It reminds me a lot of the 4-track tape players that the Library for the Blind used to send out when we were kids. And it had an internal speaker, it was kind of square, and it sat on top of your table, and you could play cassettes on it. It also looks a lot like a Texas Instruments computer that you would get as a kid's toy, but it has songs and it talks, and it's got different buttons to push and things to learn. It looks a lot like that. And it is very much in the spirit of machines like the Alesis SR16 or the Yamaha RX11 or RX15. Now, disclaimer, I never had any of those. And I understand they were a bit more geared towards sequencing and performances, whereas this is definitely more of a live jamming instrument. It is a standalone unit, so it works out of the box. It has an internal speaker, so you can play live without having to be connected to anything, although you can also connect to an amplifier or to headphones out. And you do have some customization. Now, the differences between the 30 and the 50, we'll get to that in a sec, will dictate whether or not how much customization you have. But it does really solve a lot of problems if you're dealing with small spaces where you can't necessarily lug a set of drums around, or even electronic kit is too much to either carry around or store somewhere, and then you've got to get that assembled and disassembled. And there's also the matter of transporting drums as well. I can't be the only blind drummer out there, and we don't drive, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna pack everything up and take the bus or subway with you and have these drums with you? Well, if you have something like a Yamaha hip gig, or any sort of drum sets that fold into themselves like that, you can kind of get that, but at the same time, it's not as cohesive of just having something that you can pick up and carry around if you want to jam with some pianos or acoustic guitars or however you might. So this unit really fills a lot of needs that are out there, and again, there aren't many of these units out there. It's kind of in its own class right now. Now, if that's changed, feel free to let me know in the comments. So there are two models of this Yamaha drum pad unit. The one that I have in front of me is the FGDP-30, and they also make the FGDP-50. There are some differences between these two, so you really have to think carefully about which one you buy, which one you want, and which one's going to fill your needs, unless you're buying both of them. There is a $100 difference between the two units, so the 30 costs $100 less than the 50, and consequently the 50 costs $100 more than the 30. So what are the differences? With the 30, you get 18 pads, and this is not a 4x4 grid. It's Yamaha's own design that they have accounted for how drummers orient their fingers and what kind of layout might help with ambidextrous drumming. And it does take a bit of getting used to. By that I mean within like a few minutes you'll have it figured out, and then it's just getting comfortable with it. It's not that hard to figure out, and there are some advantages to it. So to recap, with the 30 you've got talking menus, 39 onboard kits with 1200 sounds, no sampling capability, and no USB drive. With the 50 you have no talking menus, but you do have a screen. You have the same 18 pads, though you do have an extra 8 pads for customization. You have sampling capability. You have 12 extra stock kits and 1500 sounds instead of 1200, and the ability to load and store samples and beats and rhythms and stuff to play along to. Now, what do you get out of the box? You get the unit, which is a square box with pads on it. You get a manual, which is not the greatest in terms of its orientation and layout. It does take a bit of not getting used to, but just verifying what the manual is saying versus the actual layout from left to right, and a micro USB cable for connectivity. Now let's take a look at the unit itself. So, placing it on your lap and going from back to front. You have on the back facing away from you, on the left side you've got 3 ports. You've got an auxiliary in, a headphone out, and a micro USB cable. On the top of the unit itself, from furthest away to closest to you, on the very far left, on the very far top left, you've got a recessed button that is your on and off and battery power. A lot of keyboards have this design where the top left button is recessed. It looks a lot different than all the other buttons, and so you could tell, even if you don't know much about it, that's how you turn it on and off. To the right of that, there is a lock button, and I believe this locks the buttons but keeps your pads, so you don't accidentally press anything if you're in the middle of a performance and you want to keep those locked. Next to that is a metronome button, so you click that and your metronome starts and you can start playing along to that. To the right of that, we've got 2 sets of 2 buttons. So the first set is kit left and kit right, so kit previous and kit advanced. Now those take you through the 39 onboard kits, and your onboard speech reads them aloud. And to the right of those you have your 2 parameter buttons, so left and right is back and next. Those are going to help you with going through menus, with your tempo settings, and they are your general navigation buttons. To the right of that, we've got an internal speaker. So that's always fun. The next row of buttons, getting gradually closer to you, has the following. The first two are volume down and up. Now these are dependent on which source is activated, whether you're using the internal speaker, whether you've got headphones plugged in, or whether you've got it lined into something. What you just heard there was the internal speaker. I'm now going to switch to line in, so you'll hear it direct. So those control your volume levels, and they save them based on what you have plugged in last. So if I plug it back into my line-in source, it goes right back to the volume that was there, not the volume that was on the speakers. To the right of that, you have two additional buttons that are your decrease and increase tempos. So when you have the metronome going, you can use those to make it slower or make it faster, and the onboard speech will read those tempos to you. Next to that, you have your two stock extra memory kits. Now, I have not played with this feature yet, but you can, as my understanding, assign two of your favorite kits to these two buttons and you can sort of recall them. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is so you can hear the drum kits as they are out of the box before I completely revamp them and it no longer sounds like the unit you would be buying out of the box. So those are your two custom preset sounds. The final two buttons on this column are your plus and minus buttons. So right above that we have the previous and next buttons to go to different menu items, and the plus and minus buttons below that are to go to the submenu, the items within that menu, and I'll demonstrate this further because it's actually very simple. Now, let's go from front to back. I know we went back to front with the buttons, let's go front to back with the pads. So sitting with this unit on your lap, and if you place your hands at the very front of the unit. Now, I gotta give credit where credit is due. Someone saw this unit and thought that it looked like a Braille keyboard, and that's actually a great way of getting a mental picture of it if you haven't seen it. And if we use that analogy, from the bottom row you've got your big space bar and a .7 and .8 on the left and right, so a backspace and an enter key accordingly. Now, sticking with this comparison, imagine instead of just one row of dots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on your left and right, you've got 2 or 3 rows. And that kind of gives you an idea of how long this unit is. That's not a one-to-one, but it is a helpful map for this review. So from left to right, we've got your rim shot, your bass drum, and a cymbal. It comes as a splash by default. We'll get to that in a second. The next row up is a series of 7 pads. Now remember I said this is not a 4x4 grid. This is Yamaha's own custom layout. So going from left to right, this is going to sound weird. You've got floor tom, middle tom, rack tom, snare, rim. Then from the right of that, you've got another rack tom, another middle rack tom, and another floor tom. These are the same samples of the left side, but that means you have the option of doing 2-hand flams or rolls as opposed to just having to do 2 fingers on one pad and doing rolls or flams that way. So it's kind of cool. So that's one way they've sort of changed that. Now, the row above that, we've got another cymbal, your middle snare. So below that you have your snare edge, and there is your main snare above that. So from left to right again, cymbal, snare middle, bell. I think I reversed that too. On the left, this is a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from left to right on the final row of pads, this being away from you, we have cymbal, hi-hat, hi-hat open, another hi-hat close, the same one as the one on the left, and then our final one is a second cymbal. Now again, much like the toms, you've got 2 hi-hats, so you can go. Now that's my left hand on one pad and my right hand on the other, and I'm just doing sort of 16th notes going between my two hands. It's a little different than on a regular pad controller, where unless you have the same sample assigned to two different pads, you have to use two fingers on one pad. And you can still do that, but depending on how the rest of your song is going, you do have the option of using two pads for the same sample, and it's very cool. So it does actually make things a little cooler, a little easier for when you're doing some crossbody stuff like bass drum and cymbals and some sort of snare stuff. So it is very cool, and that's kind of how they've designed this unit. Now let's plug this back in. So now that we've gone through the orientation, let's have some fun. What I'm going to do is reset this unit to the factory defaults, because the two kits you were hearing up to this point were slightly modified for what I feel is a better experience, a more authentic experience. But I'm going to take you now through the onboard kits and what they sound like. With Yamaha, they've been making drums, whether acoustic drums, electronic drums, or drum layouts on keyboards for decades. But a lot of these kits are kind of mismatched. So it's weird when you pick it up from the factory and you go through these and you go, these are kind of strange. I don't know if I like this. But the good news is that you are not limited to those layouts. You can mix and match samples, and even though you can't load samples on the 30, you do have a lot to choose from. So you do have some customization within your limitations. So let's go ahead and reset this to the defaults.
Reset. Completed.
And now that I've reset it, of course, it reminds me of something I forgot to get to, which is going through some of the most important settings. So let's just go through some of these.
2. Mixer aux. 1. Mixer click volume.
So let's start with here. Mixer click volume is the volume of the metronome itself. We won't be needing that much, but it is available.
2. Mixer aux in audio volume. 3. Mixer USB audio volume. 4. Mixer operation sound volume.
So here we've got some volume settings for different ins and outs, and this is where this machine is really valuable, because even here, for example, you hear that clicking.
14.
We can make that as low or as loud
13.
as we want. And that's great for if you have this machine and you're using it with headphones or speakers and it might not matter. But if you want to plug it in somewhere and you don't want this beep, 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 beep going on while you're trying to be discreet and switching between your settings, you could turn that down. Or if you just get sick of it and you think, oh, it reminds me of a carbon monoxide monitor, I don't know if I like that, you can just turn it down and
8.
And forget about it. Let's keep it kind of in the middle there. Now, on a similar note, this is one feature that's very valuable that I think is very good.
5. Mixer voice guide volume.
So, while you don't have the option of changing the speed of the voice itself, or changing the voices, or doing any sort of other customization, you do have the option of raising and lowering the volume, which again is great because if you're going through your speaker, the internal speaker, or an amplifier, you won't have it blaring. Kind of like if you have voiceover and you're using Bluetooth and all of a sudden voiceover is blasting over your nice sounding Bluetooth. It's not the most fun experience of all. So you can
9. 10.
So we'll keep that kind of in the middle there as we go through these.
6. Click pattern. 7. Click beats.
The other thing is too,
1. Mixer click volume.
and I'll get to more of this in depth in part 2 as I go through these menu items in full. These menus don't wrap, so that's another thing to keep in mind. These menus do not wrap, so if I'm at the very top,
1. Mixer click volume.
I cannot go backwards. So if I hit back, it will just stay there. Now, consequently, when I get to number 64, which is the last one, which gives me the version number, I cannot advance to number 1. So I have to go all the way back, so you get to hear holding down the button or
7. 24. Kit voice number.
So yeah, you do
1. Mixer click volume.
deal with that. But the more you use these, the more you can click by memory. Oh, I'm here. I want to get to here. I know how many clicks that is. It just becomes muscle memory. So let's go to the kits themselves. This is why you're here. This is
Kit 1. Maple.
This is Maple. Now, this is the second kit that you heard earlier through the speaker, but by default, it's a little different. And here's where we get to the kits and their mismatches. So this, by and large, is a great kit. But the bass drum is a little more electronic for a kit like this. Now, as a teaser for part 2, you do have the option of switching those around.
1.
That is hours of fun. So let's get to the rest of these kits so you know what you're getting. There's kit 1. While I'm here, let's go through the velocities and dynamics themselves. We start with the snare drum, and we hit it normally. Standard. But if we choke it, so to speak, and that works with all the drums. And as far as dynamics, well, you have that's soft. Machine gunning. Yeah, up to you to decide. Now, next kit.
Kit 2. EDM Red.
EDM Red. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what this is supposed to be. I'm not an EDM drummer, so forgive me here, but this is what we've got here. So whereas before we would have had a
1. Maple.
a rim shot or a side stick as our very far left pad, with kit 2 we've got
2. EDM Red.
Now for our cymbals and hi-hats. So much different.
Three. Distortion Rock.
Distortion Rock. This one's kind of cool. It's a couple of these kits are great for sort of industrial rock sort of sounds. They're really cool for sort of jamming out and some recording use too.
Four. House Rose.
Some reverb on that. Does show some of the effects there. We'll get to that later. Ah, we got some samples here. For our cymbals, we've got clap. So, and for cymbals,
Five. R&B.
R&B. This is another kit that's just begging to be customized because R&B itself is a very broad label. There's different generations, different sounds, different styles of R&B. So this is what we've got here. cymbals and hi-hats. So we've got a recognizable Yamaha clap from the motif, but with more of an 808 snare. And then now instead of a splash cymbal on the far right next to the bass drum, we've got a sort of classic hi-hat sound, but to play that you'd have to be a little bit more creative. So a little bit mismatched there. Now again, we can fix that. More of that in part 2.
6. Dubstep Sun.
Now this is interesting, dubstep. I am not a dubstep drummer. I can hear Skrillex cringing in the background, but just sort of bear with me. Let's see if I can give you a taste of this. So your toms are left, right. Remember I said before that you got 2 sets of the same toms? Well, sometimes you don't. They switch them up. Aha! To the right of the snare, left and right of the snare. Ah, interesting. Cymbals and hi-hats. Two different hi-hat samples. I keep reaching for the toms. Yeah. So let me know in the comments what what you kind of you think you'd have for that one.
7.
I apologize. I'm not a dubstep producer. Okay. Big beat.
7. Big beat.
Another distortion kit. This is cool. Different sounding toms, but okay. Side stick is splash is to the left of right of the snare. Cymbals and hi-hats. That's a lot of sustain on that cymbal. So on the far right, we've got 2 of the same sound. One's just shorter. Some more sustain on that one, and notice the hi-hat though. So right away you've got sort of a mismatch between the TR-909 style hi-hat and the industrial closed hi-hat. I guess we can kind of go to the other way. I guess he doesn't use hi-hats. Aha. See? You've got chokes on demand.
8. Gate.
Gate. Now this will sound familiar to those of you who have had Yamaha motifs. Now we're back to conventional splash cymbals on the very far right next to the bass drum. But instead of a side stick, we got another clap. more sort of standard cymbal layout. Same hi-hats. What fun.
9. Hip Hop Gold.
Hip Hop Gold. Now, if I remember, this is another one that's sort of begging to be tampered with. Bit of Neptune. I forget if that's Emu, but kind of a sort of Proteus sound. I don't know if that's... Ah, interesting. A sort of predetermined record scratch. Aha. Very short sustain on the cymbals out of the box. Interesting China cymbal. You don't really associate that with this kind of kit setup. Aha! Now, why they did this, I'm not sure, but a hi-hat pedal assigned to one of the pads and a more sort of standard 808 hi-hat on the other. That's more of a foot pedal. Now, again, we can fix that with... We'll get to that later.
Kit 10. Modern Jazz.
Modern Jazz. Whoa, okay. I guess this is supposed to be a 4-piece. Because in place of the floor toms, we've got bit of a cool sounding bass drum. This was the same bass drum as the intro song, the Those Shoes one. Okay, so this has more of a conventional sort of hi-hat layout with the top row of pads, the middle hi-hat being open, the close right next to that on the left, and the foot pedal on the right. Snares. Now what they've done here, they've got the same ride cymbals on both sides. That's kind of cool because, again, you can have your left and right hands just sort of hanging off to the side in your lap like you... I've got my ring fingers on the cymbals, far left and far right, and my middle finger is on the foot pedal, and my 2 index fingers are on the snare drum. So you can kind of, if you want to put your thumb on the bass drum too, you can be my guest.
Oak.
Oak. Now here is what we get to. These are kind of generic kits, and this is at the very beginning of maple. Yeah, oak. I think there's a birch one here too. This is kind of more sort of standard affair for budget electronic drums. This is kind of what they give you out of the box. This is what they think drummers want. So there's your oak.
12. Birch.
Next to that is birch. Again, so from left to right. Oops. It's again pretty normal. Aha!
-3.
Another teaser. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
27. Kit. 24. Kit voice motor. Kit. 13. Beach.
Beach, huh? Again, sort of more very standard electronic drums affair.
Garage. 14. Garage punk.
Garage punk, you say? Well, interesting. You could almost use the snare edge and snare middle in reverse for this one. So to the left and the right of your cymbal, your snare, you've got your bell on the left side and your right on the right. I forgot he doesn't use cymbals in his music.
15. Vintage 70s.
Vintage 70s. This is what we kicked off with. Different sounding toms, more of like a drier sort of jazz tom. So we've got bass drum is the same. I think I had the snares modified somewhat. Side stick. This one and a couple of other kits have this one. It's a very dry one. By dry, I mean it almost sounds like you put it in an anechoic chamber. Guess you can't hide your lying eyes, huh? Interesting choice for a rim, but standard splash to the left of the cymbal of the snare. Bigger rides, I like that. Nice cymbals. Not too crazy about the toms, but we can fix that later, although I do have a good use for them. The hi-hats with this one, if you hit it harder, you get a foot pedal. Interesting. I'll have to keep that in mind.
16. Funk.
This is a smaller kit, but here's the interesting thing, again with the toms. Nice. Great. That's a big jump in toms. Normally with a funk kit, these would be your lower tom, would be your floor toms. With the
20.
you kind of have them sort of more up here.
Plus 2.3. 24.
You can see where part 2 is going.
20. 24. Kit voice number.
Kind of a plunky sounding kit. So again, excuse the
Kit
layout.
17. Neo Soul.
Neo Soul, huh? I'm not sure if this is what D'Angelo had in mind, but let's see. Cymbals and hi-hats. Aha! Here we have a sort of hodgepodge. Might not be a bad hip-hop one, but it also sounds like more of a jazz kit. Bass drum. Nice clap, but does it really have to be the snare? And your rim, your side stick is where the snare edge would be. You got a clap there. 2 claps. Nice toms, but I think they're more of a jazz tom. So yeah, work to be done with that one.
18. Metal.
Big cymbals. Big crashes and rides. This says metal, but what kind of metal is up to you? It almost sounds very 80s to me, but what kind of metals can we do? What fun.
19. Phaser.
So we'll go from left to right. Are you going to go my way? I wonder.
Kit 19. Phaser. 20. Digi Rock.
Another industrial one. Let's go through this one. Instead of a side stick, we got a nice kind of similar to the distortion one from earlier. Standard splash. That's a flange, just harder.
One. Reggae.
Interesting for reggae. Snares. Nice side stick, that's good. Now, great. But why? I'll have to change that. More work to be done. I'm not a reggae drummer, but all right, cymbals. Not that you have a lot of ride and bell cymbals, but they do stand out in a big way. Yamaha, what were you doing? Cymbals. Okay, so not a bad starting point, but
EDM Yellow.
I missed the pattern there. Earlier we had EDM Red, now we've got Yellow. Interesting where the rim can again act as the middle and the middle as the edge. Nice. Where your side stick is, you've got. Okay. I know that's not how you're supposed to do it, but it's fun. Cymbals. Okay, so you've got a splash in place of your normal ride cymbal, which would normally be
22.
and
EDM Yellow.
another mismatched foot pedal. That's fine, but why? Okay. You can have some fun if you want to choke that one.
23. EDM Green.
Now we got our color code. It's cool. So instead of your side stick, you've got hit it soft, choke it, hit it hard. That one's takes a bit of getting used to because you got that where your splash cymbal is right by your bass drum. So you've got either push your your left hand over and push that one, or use your thumb, and so you have to go with the timing. So we got, so instead of where your bell would be, you've got and where your ride would be, cymbals, hi-hats. Now again, interesting how they have the pedals and the closed for electronic kits, but not really so much with the acoustic kits. With the acoustic kits, they give you a lot more on both pads.
24. House Mint.
Side stick is splash,
$25. Hip Hop Silver.
Now this one makes me think of Sissy Strut by the Meters. Side stick, splash, whoa, no ride cymbal, just I guess your ride's on the left-hand side. That takes a bit of getting used to because unless you go cross arm, which is kind of strange given how tight you are. Actually, that works a little better, just takes a bit of practice. Cymbals. Those are where your crashes would normally be. Hi-hats. Bit different, but not. Aha!
$26. Beatbox Pine.
Now this is one where the toms are different on the left and right. Left. Right. Side stick. Okay. Splash. Oh. Cymbals. That's cool. So this one, you're actually using your left and right hi-hat pedals. Your left one almost is a snare. It'd be interesting to see which samples are available for that kit.
27. RX.
RX, I wonder if RX is supposed to be RX 11 or 15 because I know that's not how you're supposed to play it, but okay. Aha! Tambourine, where your side stick would be. And it's velocity, so. That's just the one pad doing the two hands on one pad trick. Clap where your bell would be, but kind of appropriate. Cymbals. Hi-hats. Be old school.
28. T8.
Ah, another set of toms left and right. Ah. How would we play this one? You'd almost do the cross arm technique again, where you have your right hand going over the top row. Difficult to play. You can map these on this kit, I think.
29 T9.
T909, okay. Side stick. Splash. Toms. Good thing there's two of the same hi-hats, because it's easier to go from right to left with the hi-hat, the open close.
Thirty analog.
That's your side stick. There's nothing wrong with your television screen. Okay. You can almost do a open closed hi-hat with the choke on the kind of choppy, but now this is interesting. Your cymbals, so you gotta clap where your bell would be, standard. Open hi-hat, closed hi-hats. That's a cymbal where your hi-hat would be. Right's the standard hi-hat. Cymbals. Very acoustic sounding.
31 Percussion Master.
So this is another one where they've grouped the bongos and hand drums as toms. So from left to right, high to low. It's not when you're actually going high, mid, high, low, low. Okay, let's go through this one. Bass drum. Snare drum. So with the second set of rack toms, you actually go in reverse. You go low, mid, low, high, high. Side stick. That's a splash. Okay. Splash. Cymbals. Makes sense. So where your other crash would normally be, you have a... Now that kind of makes sense with your, in terms of your right hand. Because on the top right, and then on the row just below it, see your second from the top. So your hand can do a back and forth rocky motion. That's your open hi-hat. And your crash cymbal there, I guess, for
32. Cuban.
And in the midst of recording this, my batteries died. 2 of them. The one in the H1 and the one in the drum machine. So we've got it plugged into the wall. I'm just going straight into the mic now, so you get the internal speaker. And I've got cables going everywhere. Oh boy! Maybe it's a good thing there's no video for this review. Okay.
Kit 31. Percussion Master.
So we were at the Cuban.
32. Cuban.
So with now going through the internal speaker, you will get the clicking of the pads as well. I can't really do much to mute that, but it won't be here for much longer because we're almost done. So yeah, I'm not really much of a Cuban artist, but let's move on.
32. Cuba. 33. Brazil.
Okay, so we got Brazil. See your toms. Floor tom. Side stick. Okay, so you got a dampened bass drum with the side stick. And here, splash. Snare. Okay, cymbals. So we have the 2 top right rocker again. Cymbals, hi-hats. So you can kind of do a
Kit 34. Africa.
side stick, splash. They're the same. So your kick drum actually has more of a resonance than the... Even through the internal speaker you can hear it. That's snare, snare, bass, snare, snare, bass. That's your rim. Toms, so cymbals. Oh, so with your cymbals and your floor toms, which are right above and below each other, you have the... So you can actually just go up and down 3 rows of 2 just with your left and right hand. Kind of cool. So. Neat.
35. Arabic.
Bass drum. Snare. Snare edge. Toms. So that's the same sample. They've just gotten more metallic, more resonant as they go down. That's cool. I am also not an Arabic drummer, so those in the comments, feel free to set me straight. Side stick. Splash. That's an actual splash. Wow. Cymbals. Those are more like hi-hats. They're in the cymbal slots. Those are where your cymbals would be. Hi-hats. No open hi-hat. They're just...
Six. Indian pop.
Bass drum. Snares. You got different percussions for the different tom layers. Those are your high rack toms. Or maybe it's, actually no, it's left, then your right set. It's an interesting way to play it, but there you go. Cymbals. So they've got the sort of left row. Okay. Different hi-hats per...
37. China.
This kick drum, this bass drum is dynamic, so if you hit it soft, hit it hard, that's just on the bass drum. Snares, toms, cymbals, China for China cymbal. I see what they did there. So this is a fairly standard drum layout for oh, you got two China cymbals. I never even bothered to check the splash.
Japan.
The penultimate. I think I know where this is going. Yo, 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 oh, 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 Your two bell and ride cymbals are the same. Your hi-hats are the same, but you're open.
Yo. Yo.
I'll have to go through those later just to see if those can be changed. That's part 2.
39.
And the last.
Orchestra. 39. Orchestra.
So, bass drum, snare, timpanis for toms, side stick, splash, giant gong, of course, cymbals. Okay. So for the left column, where your bell and your crash would be, so that means on your right side with your second crash and your I see. Hi-hats. A bit different. And that's your open hi-hat. And that's the video. So, hope you liked it. I know it was a bit long. This is time indexed, so let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the flip side.